But just looking throughout history at some of those dissidents in the Soviet Union, for example, and one of those people that you very much promote and have made far more well known, I think, among many younger people is Solzhenitsyn and his famous book, The Gulag Archipelago, and everything else. Why do you think so few people in the West know about these dissidents in the Soviet Union?
Well, because our education system in the West has been gripped by the delusion since the Second World War that authoritarianism was purely a right-wing phenomenon, which is, of course, to call that delusional, there was Stalin, there was Lenin, there was Mao, there was Pol Pot. I mean, how many goddamn examples do you need? So obviously there's left-wing authoritarianism, but the game on the left is that, well, that doesn't really exist, or that was a misapplication of a perfectly functional theory. I asked a friend of mine, a Jewish guy, why so many Jewish people in the Soviet Union were attracted to communism. And he said, because it offered the possibility of universal brotherhood. And that's the difference between, say, fascism in its more explicit forms and communism, is that communism at least says we could all be brothers, right? And that's an attractive doctrine. And I suppose at the time of the Russian Revolution, it wasn't self-evident that that idea was doomed to failure. Now, it's bloody well self-evident now, if evidence means anything at all to you. But there's that attraction in the communist doctrine of equality, which is sort of what we want in our families, and then universal brotherhood, which is a paradisal dream, I suppose. Of course, in the bowels of the communist conceptual structure are policies that are absolutely 100% murderously counterproductive. But they sound good too, like from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. It sounds paradisal. It means, well, everybody could have their needs met. Of course, you instantly entangle yourself in, well, what is a need and whose need is deemed paramount? And that's complete bloody hell. And then, well, who defines ability, and how do you know when someone's contributing to the limits of their ability, right? Because they can still stand up. So, there are these glossy, attractive slogans. Slogan, by the way, that's derived from two Welsh words, sluag and garum, and that means battle cry of the dead. Right, so these slogans that appeal to people who know nothing, who are thoughtless, who are motivated to some degree by their compassion, in the case, let's say, of the useful idiots, and then motivated by the desire to use compassion as a camouflage by the more psychopathic types. But it sounds good, and the left can claim, well, it was a really good idea, and look at all the terrible things capitalism does, and capitalism does concentrate power and wealth in the hands of fewer and fewer people, which it does, but so does every other economic system ever invented or discovered, so it's not, attributable to capitalism. And so that, combined with this promise of universal brotherhood and the desire of the radical leftists to overthrow the capitalist endeavor, means that the faculties of education produce teachers who know nothing about what actually happened in the 20th century, because they don't know anything about anything at all, and even if they did know, would be inclined to downplay it or to excuse it with, hand waving like, well, that wasn't real communism.